on this very special episode of the Clip Service podcast. It is draft day eve, Clipper Nation. The day is almost here. Rola and I are very excited about it, so we're going to break down a little bit of who we want, the picks that are kind of available around the fifth pick, which is going to be the selection. As if things stay the same, it's going to be the selection that the Clippers make tomorrow. And so we'll talk a little bit about who we like, who we're not that big of a fan of. And then we're going to get into the multitude of rumors surrounding Kawhi Leonard and Jaylen Brown going to the Clippers for the fifth pick and Giannis and all that stuff. So a couple things to break down before the big day tomorrow. So without further ado, let's make it happen.
What is up, Clipper Nation? And welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Please make sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, DJ Amazon, and YouTube. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. I'm Rola. This is my co-host, Nick. Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it, guys. Clipper Nation, we've finally arrived at a day that honestly, I didn't think that we would get to this point. Like when we made the Ivica Zubac trade and we acquired those picks, the biggest one being, this pick, it's heavily protected. And, with how poorly the Pacers did last year, I was like cautiously optimistic, but to be honest, I really wasn't sure that the pick would convey and the Clippers would be drafting fifth or sixth. Not only did the Clippers get the pick and it conveyed, but they got the more favorable of the two options. So, here we are. The Clippers have finally been blessed, if you will, by the basketball gods. And literally tomorrow at 5 p.m., the Clippers are going to have the highest draft pick that they've had since Blake Griffin. So it's a huge day. Rolla, how are we feeling? I want to get your reaction.
Dude, I'm feeling good. This is a day I've been waiting for probably like 4 or 5 years now. I've been wanting the reset for the Clippers. I've always felt like we were just going in a circle, running it back one more year, when in reality we should have been trying to build for the future. So I'm pretty excited. I think that this draft is pretty insane. Like I said in our last pod, I wasn't surprised that we got this pick, just because I do think that the NBA is rigged, and I do think that Adam Silver hooked it up for.
It's such an interesting take, but I'm down.
Do you really think it's a crazy? I feel like that's a pretty average take.
I think that it being rigged in the Clippers' favor is what's so interesting, because like that is something that wouldn't have been on my bingo card, for sure.
Well, Steve Ballmer is one of the richest men in the entire world and the richest owner in the NBA. So, you would think that Adam Silver would want to make that guy happy. And that's why it wasn't surprising to me, even though it is the Clippers. We are still in LA, probably the number 1 or number 2 biggest market in the NBA. So it makes sense to me. And that's why I wasn't shocked. Don't know why the Pacers would make that trade, knowing that the situation of it all. And is why I don't think that the Clippers are going to get really that bad of a hit with the whole aspiration thing. But that's another topic for another.
We'll talk
day.
about that at the end of this pod, I think.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm pretty excited for the draft tomorrow. I think we have the 5th pick, the 36th pick, and the 52nd pick. And the Clippers have always been, or at least recent history, been pretty good at drafting in general.
In the later rounds.
But we also haven't had a pick this high in forever. And the last time we did, we picked Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So, I think that the process for drafting that the Clippers have is pretty solid. So I'm pretty confident that they make the right choice tomorrow, whether I like it or I don't. I won't hate anything that they pick unless they pick someone that is like crazy low, you know?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
about
is there
you?
anybody that? Well, first of all, I'm extremely excited to answer your question, and I think that I'm glad that you brought up that you've been a big proponent of tearing the team down for years because you have, and I think that that's one thing that we haven't seen completely eye to eye on over the course of the last couple of years. I mean, I think we both obviously want the best for the team, but I think with me, I was always looking at it as the Clippers don't own their own draft capital. Like I have a hard time completely tearing it down and being really awful if we don't even own a pick and there's nothing to come out of it. And so now that the Clippers, like the moment that we acquired the pick, I was starting to warm up to the idea, I've been kind of out on this era of Clipper basketball for a couple of years, especially after the start last year. But I was starting to warm up to the idea of like, okay, we need to go completely younger. And then, it started getting a little bit warmer when we acquired Darius Garland and Benedict Mathurin. And you start to see like, okay, the Clippers are getting younger and like there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the pick conveyed, I completely, I'll always be a big fan of Kawhi. Like one of my favorite basketball players to watch, just from a basketball standpoint. And he's had
Right.
his moments with this Clippers team, and a lot of the lows that he's had have been because of his physical health. But now I'm at the point where if the right if the right package is presented, and it does seem like there are quite a few teams interested in acquiring Kawhi this offseason, you have to make that, just keep adding more draft picks. Now that we have the fifth, why not go for Miami's 12th pick or Golden State's 11th
Mm.
pick or something like that? So now I think we really see eye to eye on that because it's right there. Like it's finally come to fruition for the Clippers, and I can kind of see the direction that the Clippers can go if they choose to go that way. So, yeah, I'm stoked. I think, and then to kind of finish off with the last thing that you mentioned in terms of like somebody that you wouldn't want to see the Clippers draft. Is there anybody that stands out to you that you would not like the Clippers to draft with that fifth pick? Does anybody jump off the map? Or conversely, is there anybody that you would really really like the Clippers to draft over everybody else?
Yeah, so I guess for me, and I'm pulling up the mock draft really quick. I think for me, who, and I think I said this last pod, the last episode, um, I don't, I think that the top four picks in the NBA draft currently, or the top four potential picks, I think that they are a step above five and whatever below.
For sure.
But I don't think that the difference between the one through four and five through whatever is as vast as it was in previous drafts. Um, I think that honestly, and I hate to say this because we are the fifth pick. I think that the picks, the guards or the players from 5 to like 15 are all a similar caliber of player. I am not a scout. I'm not in the draft room with these teams, so I don't really know on that level who is going to be successful in the NBA. And looking at past drafts, like neither do they. So it really is a gamble. But I mean, I would really like to see Mikael Brown Jr. from Louisville be drafted as a Clipper. From the highlights I've seen of him, I didn't really watch him at Louisville, but from the highlights that I've seen, and I was talking to Nick about this earlier, he does remind me of a Devin Booker type of player. I think
Okay.
he is a type of guy that can score, can pour on the points and score at any point in time, whenever he wants. I think he is a shoot first type of guard, whereas Darius Garland is more of a dribbler. I wouldn't even say he's really a pass first type of guard, but I think he can become a pass first type of guard. I think Mikael Brown is very fast. He's quick. He can get to his spots pretty easily, pretty fast. I don't think
he's bigger than a lot of the guards too.
He's bigger than a lot of the guards. I don't think I didn't see any hesitation in his like game and his pull up, so he has a lot of confidence. And I think that the Suns saw the same thing in Devin Booker when he was playing in college, and I think that's why he was so successful out of college, because he just never really wavered in that confidence and that in his skill to score. And I see the same thing with Cal Brown Jr. So he would be my pick. Again, I haven't gone too in depth in too many of the other guys. I just know that he would be my pick, assuming that the top 4 picks go as expected. What about you? What are you feeling?
I'm a huge fit. For me, it's between Michael Brown Jr. and Keaton Wagler. I think both of those two are at the top of my list. And then obviously, like you touched on, if the projected top 4 stay the same, if Caleb Wilson falls to the Clippers, I think that's a no-brainer. Or Cam Boozer or something like that. But yeah, if who we assume is available, and based on who the Clippers have brought in for workouts, Keaton Wagler, they brought in Michael Brown Jr. I think they brought in Acuff, but it seems like really the Clippers are most interested in Wagler and Brown. I think that those are the two more realistic picks, and I think that those are my two favorites. I really like Michael Brown Jr. You touched on his, like score first, and I like the Devin Booker comparison. To me, he almost reminds me a little bit of Jamal Murray a little bit. I've heard this comparison before, but he reminds me a little bit of another Louisville alum in Donovan Mitchell. He's taller than Donovan Mitchell, but just in terms of the the range from 3, the athleticism and stuff like that to me is kind of his archetype. I like the fact that he's taller. To me, my knock on guys like Kingston Flemings and Acuff is their size. I like Fleming's, his defense. Playing with Houston, he's kind of guaranteed to be a good defender, but he's limited in size. He's not like a super reliable 3-point shooter. He's more of a mid-range shooter. Mm-hmm. And then with Acuff obviously has the it factor. He's got the, he's got that star potential. He's a great scorer, but he is limited in size, and he's had like some of the worst defensive metrics, like from what I understand in college basketball history. So at his position, so yeah, that's a big red flag to me. And Wagler and Brown both have the size to, especially Wagler is not necessarily known to be a defensive menace or anything like that, but with his size, if he starts to fill out, I think that could be something that he kind of specializes in, or at least learns to be adequate at. So I think for me, I was leaning heavy on Wagler, and I'm still a really big, advocate of him and the Clippers taking him. But I agree. I think my number one, favorite as of right now is Michael Brown Jr. There's guys like towards the end that I really like. Like I really like Ademara out of Michigan, but the 7'4" or whatever he is center. But I do think that like 5th would be a little bit overzealous. Same thing with Braden Burries out of Arizona. I think he's a great 3-level scorer, great defender. He's got good size, but I do think that he would be available later on. And so I think it would be another overzealous pick. So all that to say, I do kind of piggyback your pick of Michael Brown Jr., but I would be perfectly okay, with any of these guys.
Do you feel like if one of, obviously not AJ, but do you feel like if one of the 2 through 4 picks aren't, the expected 2 through 4 picks aren't selected, do you feel that the Clippers throw away their plan and just pick up one of those guys?
I think so. And I think that they probably brought in these guys because it seems like there's been like almost like some like promises made to guys like Wagler and guys like Brown, because both of those guys I think shut down all like workout invites, like around the time that they worked out with the Clippers. So I think that they probably are thinking, okay, as long as none of the projected 4 are available, we're gonna take one of you guys.
Right.
But I think that that deal is always done with the caveat of, okay, if obviously this won't happen, but if DeBonsa is available at fifth, we're gonna take him. Sorry, so. But I think the most realistic person to fall is probably Caleb Wilson, who
Yeah.
I would be a huge fan of him in a Clipper uniform.
Hmm.
I think the only reason why I think that is because I've heard that Darius Acuff has interested the Bulls front office. I don't know if
Interesting.
Giddy's like a long term, um, you know, asset for them. So if they do decide that they want to move away from Giddy, they might want to go with someone like Darius Acuff. I'm not sure,
Right.
but yeah, I think if they're available, I think you got to do it. But I'm thinking realistically, yeah, those are my picks. And again, I wouldn't be down in the dumps if the Clippers did take a chance on Darius Acuff or did take a
Mhm.
chance on Kingston Flemings or Burries or something like that. But I just think that the star potential is too high with guys like Wagler and guys like Brown, and they just kind of fit what the Clippers are doing, especially if the Clippers decide to keep Darius Garland. And that's actually going to be my next question for you, Rolla. Is do you think the Clippers should make the pick with the intention of putting this person next to Darius Garland and having them be like a 1-2? Or do you think that they should pick the best talent available regardless? And if, it doesn't work out, then you ship one of them, Darius Garland and whoever we pick off.
Um, I think at a top five pick, you have to pick the best, the best player regardless, because this player could literally change your entire franchise. I think Darius Garland is a fantastic player. I think he was a top three pick in his draft, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not a type of player you just get rid of. I think he's 26 years old. He's still young. He still has a lot of game and NBA to fill. So I think that you take the best the best player you can get, and hope that Darius Garland can adjust his game to complement the younger guy. I think that's it. At the end of the day, Darius Garland is a professional. He's been in the league for what, like 5 years now, 4 years.
Yeah.
So I do think that you just take the best player, and Darius Garland can kind of adjust with that, and
Yeah.
hopefully everyone else can adjust with that. But at the end of the day, if there is some sort of clash, I think that Darius Garland has to be moved, and I think you do invest in, if he it warrants it. I think you do invest in the younger guy. I mean, when you look at someone like Anthony Edwards getting drafted to the Timberwolves with Karl Anthony Towns there. Karl Anthony Towns was the number one pick. I mean, he never played poorly really on the Timberwolves, and at the end of the day, they chose to go with Ant and moved Karl Anthony Towns over to the Knicks, where he did just win a championship. But I think that if that case happens with the Clippers, you got to go with the younger guy, and I think that's the best and smartest move. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do think that drafting the best talent available is important. But I do think that with Wagler and with Brown, like you're kind of doing both. Like I do think that like any of this handful of guards that are available around that pick, any of them have the potential to be the best guard outside of maybe Darren Peterson in the draft. And so I think that you can safely pick those two and assume that they have a chance of
Right.
being one of the best guards in the class. But I think also those two fit next to Darius Garland. It just gives you more options moving forward. Like you're not grandfathered into this idea of Darius Garland has to be our guy. Like
Mm.
you can have a 1-2 punch, and have them work together. So or if one is if our draft pick ends up being significantly better than Darius Garland, you can still trade him and have them move into his role as like the
Right.
lead guard.
Yeah.
So I think that you get more options with that. Would you want the Clippers to trade down? And that'll lead me into the next question. But just right off the bat, do you think that the Clippers should trade down for future assets, or do you think that they've been given this gift at the fifth pick, they should hang on to it and pick at that selection? that selection?
Yeah, so like I said, I am not a scout. I'm not in the Clippers draft room. I don't know the insider information like these other guys do. Um, when I think about trading down, uh, I think about a situation a couple years ago where the Lakers wanted Lonzo Ball at the second pick, and who did the Sixers draft? They drafted
Markel Fultz, right?
Markel Fultz, and the Celtics traded the number one pick, which they would have used to draft Jason Tatum, or it was Jason Tatum. Did I say Jaylen Brown? I meant
Wait, the
Jason Tatum.
Celtic. Do you mean the Lakers? The Lakers traded the
No,
or wait?
or was it the Lakers?
Yeah, how did that even go?
I think it was. I think it was the
Philly
Celtics.
had the number one pick.
The Celtics knew the Celtics had the number one pick. They knew the Sixers were going to draft Markel Fultz, and they knew the Lakers were going to draft Lonzo Ball. They would have picked Jason Tatum at number one, but they chose to trade away the number one pick, and they got a bunch of other draft capital plus the number three pick. I think that's how it went.
I honestly can't even remember. Let me look it up.
Because I think either way, the Lakers were going to draft Lonzo Ball, and I think they were number. I think for sure they were number two. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went. Because I remember there was like the discussion on how the Sixers played themselves.
Yeah, okay. Markel Fultz was at the center of a historic blockbuster draft day trade in 2017 when the Boston Celtics traded the number one overall pick to Philadelphia. Philadelphia moved up 2 spots to select Fultz, while Boston dropped to 3 to draft Jason Tatum.
Mm-hmm. So when I think about that, like I think about trading draft capital, I think about that. Like I had said, I think a lot of these guards are on the same level from 5 to like 15. So I wouldn't be mad if the Clippers felt like, okay, we're gonna draft Michael Brown, and it doesn't look like any of the teams after us are looking at him the way we're looking at him. So we're gonna make that gamble to trade the number 5 pick, and hopefully we can still get him at number 7, 8, 9. And if it was that type of situation, I would be all for the Clippers trading away that draft pick. But if it's not, and I think if it's just like a situation to get, for example, they were talking about trading away number 5 to get Giannis or to get like Jaylen Brown. I think that's a horrible idea.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that in a second. I'll
if
bring
it's
that to the table.
Capital, and you can still get your guy. I think that is the smartest move to make at this point in time. Just because I said, even if you don't, I think like a lot of these guards are on the same level, and I think that it could still end up being beneficial for us. What about you?
Yeah, well, so one specific thing that I've heard is that there's mutual interest between Darius Acuff and the Sacramento Kings, who are picking at 7th. Whether that's true, whether that's not true, whatever. There's so much, so many rumors around this time of the year, a couple of days before the draft. But, let's say that something like that is true. I wouldn't be upset with the idea of the Clippers drafting Acuff at 5th with the intention of trading it to the Kings, for maybe a future first. And if we could snag someone like Maxime Renault or something like that, and then we can still draft one of Wagler and Brown at that point. Obviously, we'd have to see who the Brooklyn Nets pick. From everything that I've heard, they're really, really interested in Michael Brown, so it would probably have to be Wagler. I could see something like that happening, and I wouldn't be opposed, especially with the Clippers being not rich in asset draft capital, for the next couple years, just to add some more draft capital, especially for a team like the Kings. Obviously, with this new rule of to prevent tanking, it makes things a little bit muddy because I don't see the Kings being very good anytime soon. But yeah, I think that a situation like that, if presented, I would be into it. And then that kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk about next, where in the same conversation of trading on draft day. And you touched on it as well. So there's been rumors that Jaylen Brown, given, his future with the Celtics, and then obviously Giannis's future with the Bucks, there's growing talk, and apparently it's been picking up steam that Giannis is going to be moved to one of the Heat or one of one of the Heat or the Celtics. And there's been rumors that the Clippers get in on the trade, make it a 3-team or 4-team trade, and it somehow ends up with the Clippers trading the 5th pick for Jaylen Brown. I'm going to start off by saying that would anger me in ways that I can't even explain.
Yeah.
Like right now. Like,
Yeah.
I think that, don't go and get a vet. Like, the Clippers need to organically build a team that can contend. Like, we've been trying to, like, use the riches of the owner to, like, buy all of this, buy all of these assets and buy all of this talent. But I think that the Clippers really need to take a look and start from scratch and, like, really build something organically. this is something that I've never told Rola,
bro.
Yeah.
Oh God, this brings a tear to my eye, bro. I'm so happy you came.
I'm sounding a little.
I've
been spending too much time with Rola. I think that's what.
That was beautiful, bro. I could not agree more. I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious. The big 3 or big 2, whatever, doesn't work in the NBA anymore.
I think a big 2 works.
I mean, what's the big 2 with OKC? I mean,
J-Dub and Shea.
If you want to call J-Dub a number 2, you can call him like a number 2, but I wouldn't call the team a big 2. I would say it's led by Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then there's a bunch of like guys.
Phenomenal supporting cast.
Exactly. They know their role and they perfect their role to a T. I think you saw the same thing with the Spurs. They got Wemby, and they got a bunch of guys that know their role. I mean, you look at someone like Vassell.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy where I feel like he can do more things on the basketball court, but he knows his role. He knows that he's a shooter. He knows that there are other guys that are ball handlers on the court. Whereas, like, they don't need another ball handler. They need a shooter. They need someone that can knock down threes. And I feel like he has become that for them. You look at, the Pacers, a bunch of guys that know their role. You look at the Knicks, for example, the champions. Like, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns had 2 points in the final game. Like, this is a team where, like, even the second man is okay with taking a step back. Even, like, the third guy is okay with deciding to get 10 boards in the game, like focusing on something. Focus on something where the team needs you. And then Jalen Brunson drops on the 45 points because that's his role. That's what the team needed him to do in that final game. So it's like, I think if you get a big man, not a big man, you get a superstar, or you trade for like a Jaylen Brown or trade for like a Giannis, and you have Kawhi and Giannis, and maybe you invest in another. It's just you're not going to win, because at the end of the day, the rest of the team isn't going to be able to give you what another, like an OKC, rest of their team can give you. So I think at the end of the day, making a trade, I mean, I don't know what the move is with Kawhi currently. Like you said earlier, I think that a trade with a team that has a lot of assets is a good move. But I think, like, if you the Clippers can't be looking to bring in like a Jaylen Brown or a Giannis and try to run it with Kawhi. It's stupid. It hasn't worked in the past. We brought in James Harden. We had James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi on the same team at one point, and we still lost in the first round.
Don't forget about Russ.
And Russ. Dude, I've erased him from my memory on the Clippers. It just doesn't work. It's not going to work. There's no point in even trying, because you will lose to an OKC and you will lose to a Spurs team, and there's no point in investing and missing out on your youth and growing that special team on, like, hoping that you can get a lucky championship. So yeah, dude, I'm glad that you finally come over to the dark side.
I've come around, Rola. It's been a long time coming. I do think that, like, I'm not a big proponent of this, but, like, I think there's a world where the Clippers trade away the 5th pick for Jaylen Brown, and then they trade away Kawhi to a team like Miami or something like that and get their pick, and get someone like Khalil Ware, like that would be a little bit easier to stomach just because you'd be getting younger with Jaylen Brown. But Jaylen Brown's contract is insane. I think he's making like $60 million
He's like one
a
of the
year.
richest players in the NBA. I mean,
Yeah, and I just don't think that I don't think that that's what the Clippers should be doing. Like,
No.
I really think that it was fate. The Clippers got this 5th pick. I think that was the basketball deities being like, okay, Clippers, like you need to start focusing. I'm giving you this chance. Let's start to get younger. No more unction. No more like super max paid veteran stars. Like, I really think that this is the time for the Clippers to get serious about creating something organic and creating something from the ground up. And even if it doesn't work, that's not to say that guys like Wagler or guys like Brown are going to be superstars or even going to ever lead the Clippers to a championship. Like, obviously, we never know. But I think that the fact that the opportunity has been presented and it's something that the Clippers haven't tried in a long time, I think that you really got to just do your due diligence and stay the course with the cards that you've been dealt.
Right.
But now that leads me to the last little discussion of trade. To piggyback off of what I was saying, so in terms of Kawhi, obviously, as we know, Kawhi has one more year left on his contract as it stands right now. Kawhi had a fantastic year, statistically one of the best careers that he's ever had in his statistically one of the best years that he's ever had in his career last year. So obviously he has value. There's been teams that have been discussed to have interest in him, like the Warriors, like the Heat. I've heard like talk of the Pistons being interested, stuff like that. If the Clippers can try and get another pick in this year's draft, like I said, the Warriors have the 11th pick, the Heat have the 12th pick. Would you? I already kind of know the answer, but like, would that be something that you'd be interested in? I think the Warriors is a little bit harder because they don't have as much to give up,
Right.
and we'd probably have to take on Jimmy Butler's contract or Brandon Pajemski or something like that. But I do think that there's something to be said about acquiring another lottery pick in this year's draft. Do you think that it's worth it to get rid of Kawhi, and acquire, even if it's just for draft capital?
Oh,
Would
of
that be
course.
something you're interested in? Yeah.
Of course. I think getting another lottery pick increases our chances of drafting a franchise-changing player. I think Kawhi already did all he could do on the Clippers. And, we didn't win a championship out of it. I think we got to move on to the next player that could potentially win us a championship. And I think, having 2 picks on that level increases our chances. Obviously we don't know. We'll know in like 5-10 years whether the player we draft is going to be that guy. But if you have 2, what if both guys hit?
Yeah.
So I think that you take that chance. I think Kawhi has done a lot for us, and I think the assets we can get back for him are going to benefit us like crazy. How about you? Would you make that trade?
I would make that trade. I would just because Kawhi's value is higher than it's been in years, I would really like to maximize whatever theoretical trade would come out of that. The team that I'm looking at closest is the Miami Heat. Obviously, I'm expecting Giannis to be traded before the teams start picking tomorrow. I'm kind of hoping that the Heat miss out on the trade, and it's just like a 1-and-1 swap between the Celtics and the Bucks, because I'm of the belief that if Miami misses out on Giannis, then they pivot hard towards Kawhi, and they're willing to throw guys like Khalil Ware, who I really like, guys like Jaime Jaquez, and as well as the 12th pick in the draft. So I really want, if the Clippers do trade Kawhi, I would have a hard time seeing him go just for like a singular pick. I think that you really want to try and see if you can get another young, proven player out of it, like a Khalil Ware or like a Jaime Jaquez, or I would hate to take on any contract like Tyler Heroes, but I mean he's still young, and so there's something to be said about that. But I just think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 12 to 20 hours.
Right.
And, you know, I think that, as long as the Clippers maintain, you know, a lottery pick, hopefully the fifth pick in the draft, then I'm coming out of this happy. But the last thing that I wanted to touch on, Rolla, is the aspiration news with the Clippers. Obviously, we haven't gotten any news yet. There hasn't been any sort of leak or any sort of, you know, sound news coming out about the alleged scandal with the Clippers and the fraudulent company aspiration and Kawhi's involvement in that, the cap circumvention, all that. Do you think that there's a chance that the aspiration news drops before the Clippers make their selection tomorrow?
Yeah, and we lose the fifth pick. Imagine.
I don't think so. Though that's interesting. No. That's an interesting thing because I don't think it would be like correlative to anything going on with that. So I don't think the Clippers would lose that. But
like I said,
I do think it would affect Kawhi's trade value.
I don't think anything is really going to happen. I said, I think that Adam Silver doesn't really care about that shit. I think what he cares about at the end of the day is the money. And keeping Ballmer happy means more money in his pocket at the end of the day.
It's so gross.
And
that is such a gross notion. No, I'm not saying that it's not true. It's just that's such a gross thing to think about.
And the aspiration thing, I do think that it is very blown out of proportion. And I think that Adam Silver recognizes that. And I think that the NBA is there. It's going to be like a slap on the wrist. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I don't think Kawhi is going to be punished to a point where it like is material. I think like, I don't know, maybe they'll get a fine here and there, and that's pretty much it. We move on. Because I think the aspiration guys already got arrested.
That's what I was just about to say. I think the one thing that bodes well, hopefully, for the Clippers in this situation is that the fact that the CEO of the company he's been convicted and he's in jail. So that he was fucking people over.
Exactly. You know, so I just don't think that it's going to be that serious. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't think it'll be before the draft. And I don't think it's going to have any effect on the draft. I think we're all waiting for it, and we're all looking. I don't want to say looking forward to to seeing what happens. But
why is it taking so long, though? That's the thing. Is like, why wait 7 months or whatever it's been? Like, but like that's. I just
don't think they care.
I don't know. And all of this stuff like costs the league money, like paying this firm to investigate this like extremely touchy subject and like, you know, turn over every rock and stone and, make sure that there's no wrongdoing. Like that shit costs money. And so I'm like, man, if it's taken this long, like maybe it's not as cut and dry as we think it is. I don't know. I hope that it doesn't affect the Clippers in really any way that's gonna affect my happipiness as a fan. Selfishly, I would like to believe that the Clippers didn't have any wrongdoing in this, and I think if the Clippers, if Kawhi is found guilty of involvement in the situation and his contract gets voided, that would suck because they wouldn't be able to trade him. Yeah. But I'm just hoping that tomorrow is nice and smooth, and hopefully nothing out of the ordinary happens. Because if we know one thing as Clipper fans, you can never count out bullshit to happen with this team. Yeah. So hopefully that is not the case. I'm really excited. It almost doesn't feel real. I know that sounds like I'm being over dramatic, but it really doesn't feel like the Clippers are drafting fifth tomorrow. And like the gravity of what that could potentially mean for this team. Right. And years from now and stuff like that. It's like a really big moment for the Clippers, and it's wild. I'm going to be going to the draft, or probably going to be at the draft watch party at Intuit tomorrow. I'm hoping to make it out. So if anybody that's watching this is there as well, feel free to find me, and I'm down to chat about who you guys think the Clippers are going to draft, who your favorite draft picks are, and stuff like that. So, right. But yeah, I'm really excited. Roland, do you have anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here?
No, nothing of note. I am also excited. Like you said, this draft could change a lot for the Clippers' future. At the end of the day, I think we both just want to see the Clippers hold up a chip the way the Knicks did this year.
Yeah, congrats to the Knicks, man. That was pretty special.
Yeah, they got it done, and they did it with a lot of heart and passion, and that's what we're gonna need if we want to ever get there, and that's the dream. And I think it starts with this draft. So we'll see how it goes. And also, guys, hit us up on Instagram and let us know who you think that the Clippers should draft.
Oh yes, yes,
because we're pretty interested in what y'all gotta say too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's so many different ways that the Clippers can go, and I've been hearing, "Oh, I'm super out on this guy. I would hate for the Clippers to draft this guy. I would love for the Clippers to draft this guy." There's a lot of differing opinions, so yeah, guys, let us know what you think. There's a lot of different ways the Clippers can go, so a lot of different opinions. But yeah, hopefully everything goes well, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, if you're going to the draft watch party tomorrow, hopefully I see you there. Thank you for tuning in. As Rola said up top, you can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Deezer. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Clip Service Pod. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. We really appreciate it. It ain't no lip service. This has been Clip Service. Guys, draft day is upon us. So Rola, tell the people what they got to hear.
Let's go Clips!
Let's go Clips.